vow to make the world better for each of our peers every moment that we can. As members of this great community, it is our responsibility to see to that. It takes courage. May we always be courageous. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce Ann Lynn Sue, our Student Union President, who will lead us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Is amazing. Since 1984, the collaboration between Queens College and Townsend Harris High School has been a successful, thriving example of secondary and higher education partnership. In 1995, the opening of Townsend Harris on the QC campus enhanced that relationship. The collaboration is administered by the Office of College Preparatory Programs, and Robin Hisme is the tireless liaison between QC and Townsend Harris. Robin Hisme holds a Mistress of Philosophy in English and is currently a PhD candidate at the CUNY Graduate Center. She has been a member of the Queens College English Department since 2001, where she teaches medieval and early modern literature, contemporary lyric poetry, and literary theory. Professor Hisme's connection to the collaboration dates from 2004, and in January of 2013, she assumed the position of director. As the liaison between Townsend Harris High School and Queens College, Professor Hisme hopes to strengthen the already thriving components of the collaboration and expand into new areas, including more opportunities for Townsend Harris underclassmen and more meaningful inclusion of diverse learners. Please welcome Ms. Robin Hisme.
Good morning. Honored guests, Principal Condon, Townsend Harris faculty, alumni, parents, and students. As a liaison between Queens College and Townsend Harris High School, it is my honor to welcome you to this year's celebration of Founders Day. I bring you greetings and congratulations from the Queens College community, including the interim president, William Tramontano, and Dr. Craig Michaels, the Dean of the Division of Education. Thank you all for coming today to witness and partake in this important tradition, which began on October 25th, 1984, when the Ephebic Oath was administered to the first new class of Townsend Harris High School here on the Queens College campus. Since then, each class of Townsend Harris students has renewed the pledge on Founders Day. The collaboration between Queens College and Townsend Harris High School is a fruitful and mutually beneficial partnership. The connection between our institutions is particularly apt and indeed strengthened by our unique focus on and commitment to scholarship and community service. As you listen to the recitation of the Ephebic Oath, I urge you to consider how it reverberates with the Queens College motto, Discimus ut serviamus, we learn so that we may serve. Students, whether you are freshmen pledging the oath for the first time or an upperclassman renewing your vow, realize that your promise to someday leave your city greater than you found it is not a far-off event. Your contribution to community begins now through your education and service. During your years at Townsend Harris and Queens College, you will have the opportunity to discover and explore a myriad of options open to you. I urge you to make the most of every opportunity to develop skills and acquire knowledge, which will advance your success in fields where you can make a positive difference in the lives of those around you. Faculty, alumni, and parents, thank you for your contributions in making Townsend Harris High School one of the finest schools in New York City, the finest. And the reputation of Queens College is greatly enhanced by your presence on our campus. So without further ado, welcome and enjoy.
The new Townsend Harris was reopened in 1984 because of the incredible efforts of the Alumni Association and those who believe deeply in its mission. You can go to school here because of them. Since our rebirth, the Alumni Association has provided our school with funding to support numerous programs, staff development, mentoring for students, programs such as Career Day, and many, many more. Their generosity has gone a long way and is felt by many in our building. Please help me welcome a member of the class of 1991 and the president of our Alumni Association, Craig Slutskin.
Good morning. Good morning. So when you say Townsend Harris, several different words or phrases can come to mind. Classics, hard work, scholarship, collateral. To me, the word that comes to mind is tradition. Townsend Harris is steeped in tradition, a tradition of excellence, scholarly disclosure, and giving back to one's community. These traditions have held true from the original Townsend Harris Hall on the City College campus, to the high school that moved down to 23rd Street at the Baruch campus, to the reopened school down the block on Parsons Boulevard, to the current school today. When I first started working with the Alumni Association back in the early 1990s, I remember being awestruck at the personalities around the table. There was Henry Sheriff, who was a prominent attorney who was more responsible than any alumnus for the recreation of the school. Maury Paprin and Charlie Siggety, builders and real estate moguls. Jerry Chazen, who was one of the founders of Liz Claiborne. And many other prominent doctors and lawyers, educators, artists, and politicians. I remember sitting around the table and listening to these guys talk, or as they would say, kibitz, which is a Yiddish term, about the old school. And it was remarkable the number of parallels between the original school and the reestablished school. They talked about their Latin and Greek classes. They talked about a rigorous physical education program. They talked about how the old school was full of first or second generation immigrants. Does any of this sound familiar? Because I think so. As an aside, they also complained about the lack of women in the school, because it was an all-boys school, so clearly we've made some progress on that front. Sadly, many of these men are no longer with us. I get the all-too-frequent letter from a widow or a child that a member of the Townsend Harris family has passed, and a good number of those letters express how much Townsend Harris meant to them. The youngest of the original Harrisites is now over 90. That's why we started getting their stories on video. We honor these great founders by remembering them, remembering what they stand and stood for. That's our job as leaders of an alumni association, but we can't do it alone. We need all Townsend Harrisites to remember. On our website, we have pages for Hall of Fame inductees, as well as obituaries of alumni and video interviews with several of the members of the original school. And I challenge each of you to read up on these men. I and think about how their experiences can be examples of the Townsend Harris spirit. And if you want to take it a step further, read The Bright Boys. Bright Boys is a book written by the wife of alum Morton LeBeau about the high school and the history of the high school. When Principal Condon was appointed to his current position, the first thing he got from me was the book and an assignment to read it. Interestingly enough, I also received a letter just yesterday from a member of the class of 1943, Lloyd Merkelson. Mr. Merkelson told me how his father went to Townsend Harris, his uncle went to Townsend Harris, and his granddaughter is Casey, a member of the current sophomore class. So talk about tradition. 4 generations of Townsend Harris. Townsend Harris is a school with a rich history, both for the old school and the new school. Each day, when you walk through the hallways of the new building, you pass the Townsend Harris Wall of Fame, which showcases the many influential men who graduated from the old school. Men such as Jonas Salk, who helped rid the world of polio. Richard Rogers, who enriched all of our lives with his songwriting and contributions to American theater. William Klein, an accomplished photographer and director of French films. Herman Wouk, from the class of 1930, who was one of the greatest writers of the 20th century, and up until his death last year, at over 100 years of age, still paid his annual dues. George Weissman, from the class of 35, who was the CEO of Philip Morris, one of the largest companies in the country. Bob Jastrow, the class of 41, who helped lead NASA through its infancy to the Apollo missions to the moon. And even the reestablished school has its own rich and impressive history. The school, based in Manhattan, was closed in the mid-40s by Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia due to budget cuts, although the real story is that he felt the school was elitist. Townsend Harris remained a memory until the early 1980s, when a number of alumni connected first to establish an alumni association, then to dedicate themselves towards the reestablishment of the school, upholding their school's traditions of humanities and community service. One would think a bunch of people working together to open a school is a noble cause and easy to accomplish, but it wasn't easy for those pioneers. It took dedication and perseverance. City College, Townsend Harris's original college link, had little interest in reestablishing the connection. The alumni found a great friend in Saul Cohen, who was then the president of Queens College. Dr. Cohen was a strong believer in public education and a strong believer in the humanities tradition. With his support, the alumni were able to create the new Townsend Harris High School at Queens College in 1984. Your admittance into the Townsend Harris family means you are part of a family that's 8,000 members strong. You'll have the opportunity to meet those who came before you, those who've done it, and those who are now dedicated to seeing the success of each of you and your fellow students, who are available to help the school, who are available to help you. And I just want to welcome all of the freshmen, and of course, the incoming sophomores, to the Townsend Harris community, and we look forward to getting to know each of you over the next 4 years. Thank you.
As the wheel of the world continually turns over, we tend to look back at checkpoints in our lives to help us deal with the ever-moving passage of time. Though time is linear, we construct annual checkpoints to remember our history. We have birthdays, anniversaries, Founders Day. And we do this to mark the different cycles and different periods of the time and the moments that make up of our lives. Today, on Founders Day, we're not just here to welcome in the new class of Harrisites, although that's very exciting, but to remember those that came before us. So let's take a moment to remember. This is a time for celebration and a time for remembrance. And just as John Newton called up to the heavens to save a wretch like him, we take pause to recognize that all we can do is strive to be the best versions of ourselves. We are the next chapter in Townsend's history, and we hold the pen. Today is the day to pick up where the classes before us have left off. This setting of Amazing Grace by Frank DeKelly is one of the most gorgeous settings ever written for wind band. And as you listen to the Townsend Harris Wind Ensemble perform it for you, lose yourself in the music, and let us remember and celebrate our founders, those with us, those who have passed, and the foundation they laid forth upon which we have built an academic empire. Help me welcome the Townsend Harris Wind Ensemble, conducted by Mr. Kevin Heatwood, as they perform Frank DeKelly's setting of the timeless hymn, Amazing Grace. Our school's vision is to create an inclusive, accepting, and welcoming community of learners where everyone is engaged, challenged, and inspired to strive for excellence, make ethical decisions, and develop an enduring commitment to serve their community. Our school community thrives because of the collaboration among administrators, faculty, and especially students working towards this shared vision. Yet it is with the guidance of a strong leader that a joint vision can come to life. And we are lucky to have such a wonderful leader. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our principal of Townsend Harris High School, Brian Condon.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I saw a lot of coffee this morning, so I expected a better good morning at first. I just want to say on this Founders Day, let me begin by saying this. That was amazing, and I think we should another round of applause for our wind ensemble. And for the wind ensemble's director, Mr. Kevin Heathwood. And a round of applause for yourselves, because you came here in September and it's November and we're still doing well, right? One more round of applause for all of our new faculty. So, on this Founders Day, S apostrophe, right? On this Founders Day, let me welcome our alumni, our faculty, our families, and of course, our students. The man for whom our school is named, Townsend Harris, said, "Open the doors to all. Let the children of the rich and poor take their seats together and know of no distinction save that of industry, good conduct, and intellect." In many ways, with the utterance of those words, the landscape of education was transformed. The Free Academy was established, and the doors to higher education were flung open, made available to the common man, and an egalitarian tradition was created that continues today, here and around the world. Today, through the utterance of words, we continue that tradition. When we administer and recite the Ephebic Oath, we transform as well. You 9th grade Townsend Harris High School students and you incoming 10th grade Townsend Harris High School students become Harrisites. Harrisites are different. Harrisites are special. When others only think of themselves, Harrisites think of others. When others seek the path of least resistance, Harrisites pursue the more strenuous path. When others focus on doing the least necessary, Harrisites focus on doing the most possible. Harrisites seek out the heaviest burden they are capable of carrying so that they may improve the lives of those around them. With the words of this sacred oath, we will affirm our commitment to one another, to our school, and to our city. Like the young men of 5th century Athens who uttered these very same words, we agree to stand beside one another through the times of prosperity and in times of difficulty, committed to leave our city greater than we found it. We will do this by looking for reasons to be grateful, by looking for opportunities to grow, and by finding new ways to give. I consider it a great honor to be here as you join this tradition, and a great honor to see you become a Harrisite. Welcome to the class of 2023. As your hopes, dreams, imagination, and courage propel you through your journey at Townsend Harris High School, I am grateful to be by your side. Thank you.
Or if on joyful wing, cleaving the sky, sun, moon, and stars forgot, upwards I fly. You don't want to hear me sing that. Here at Townsend, we climb ever higher towards the infinite, and these words, written by 19th century hymn writer Sarah Flower Adams, speaks to our purpose. Founders Day brings us all together to help us reflect on the heights we've climbed and the depths we've uncovered. For the classes before you have soared to great heights, and they lay an outstretched hand to bring you along, so that when you begin your journey, that's where you begin. Then with my waking thoughts, write thy praise, out of my stony griefs, Bethel I raise. Join me in welcoming to the stage the Townsend Harris Chamber Strings, directed by Mr. Christopher Lee, as they perform the hymn Bethany by Lowell Mason and translate these wonderfully written English words into the universal language of music. remarkable kids. All the musicians have been amazing tonight, and thank you to all of the people that have guided them and brought them to this place. Mr. Lee, thank you. Mr. Hafer, thank you. Dr. Salto, thank you. We're going to change tone a little bit. I just got chills, but now we're switching a little bit to learn a little bit about the history of Townsend Harris High School, because it was actually tumultuous and fraught with drama. The following presentation is a 10-minute lesson in how our wonderful community got started and how our students attempt to leave our community greater than they originally found it. Playing multiple roles right before your very eyes, please welcome seniors Idalia DiNapoli and Delilah Hassick in their play Acceptance Avenue, directed by Kevin Schwab.
Education is the foundation of our nation. Without education, we have no freedom. We have no way to grow and better our society. Ladies and gentlemen, you should all send your bright young boys to school for just a small price of
Demerits!
the nerve of men in our society! Always disrupting the spread of education. Give me your name this instant.
I'm Townsend Harris. I
Me,
just came.
Townsend Harris, the one who founded Japan.
Yes. The one who traveled to Japan and changed the face of America's trade network. It's no biggie.
Well, I'm the dean.
You're a hypocrite. You're nothing but a hypocrite. You stand here preaching the benefits of education when you limit it to just a few top percent. You blame me for spreading the flow of education when you're the one punishing the impoverished boys. It's not their fault that they weren't born into a filthy rich household unlike you.
Well,
Enough, simply enough out of you. Welcome to 1849. Dear parents, please, it's time your boys received a real chance at education. I'm no gross salesman unlike that other man, and I am in no place to make promises, but I guarantee you that my school, the New York Free Academy, will be one of the most accepting and inclusive schools in the nation.
today is a devastating day. For we're gathered here to remember our dear fallen brother, Townsend Harris. 26 years have passed since his death, yet we're still affected by it today. He created the Harris Treaty, founded the Free Academy of New York. He did so much for his friends, family, community. That's why we've decided to evolve the introductory year of the Free Academy of New York into a full-fledged high school program, naming it after our dear fallen brother, Townsend Harris.
Can't believe I got accepted into Townsend Harris High School. Dad was so proud of me that he took off from all three of his jobs to celebrate with just me. None of my other brothers got to go to good schools back in the motherland. And think of all of the possibilities. You know, maybe after high school, I can get a better paying job so Dad can finally retire.
Ladies and gentlemen of New York City, it's your favorite mayor, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. Really, just that great, y'all should name a poorly functioning airport after me. What was I here for again? Oh yes, today's matter of business. I've decided to shut down the non-essential educational unit known as Townsend Harris High School. Now back to that airport.
No, Mayor, please, you can't do this. This school's my only chance.
Sorry, kid, but I think the funds could be used for something better, like building that airport.
No, Mayor, please, you must reconsider. Where else will I go?
Sorry, kid. Business is business. That's cute. Ah, use the whole airport. Oh, look.
This can't be happening.
It's been 40 years since it closed.
Has it really been that long?
I'm afraid so. We can't let him win.
But what are we supposed to do?
We can't give up. We're Harrisites, for Christ's sake. Without that school, where would we be? That school gave us the chance to better and change our society, to be the change that we wanted to see in the world. That school gave us an opportunity, and we can't deny others that same opportunity.
You know what? You're right. I'll start calling up possible sponsors. There has to be someone that has as big as a heart as Townsend Harris did.
And I'll get in touch with the Japanese consulate. Hopefully they can help us do something. On behalf of the National PTA School of Excellence, I am here to recognize Townsend Harris High School for its outstanding academic achievements. Thank you, Principal Loudman, for everything you've contributed to THHS.
Thank you. This is a great honor. But this award is not just mine. to the blood, sweat, and tears of the alumni who rebuilt this institution. It goes to the staff who come in every single day to support our students. But most importantly, this award goes to our diverse group of students who not only work hard, but strive to change the world. The students in my school are brave and unforgiving. The students in my school are never quiet, whether they are arguing over figurative language in the Odyssey, or they are going against the actual government to get change that they know is theirs. Harrisite always leaves their city greater than they found it. Take that, airport! Hello? Yes, this is Dr. Logman. The Queen's College building is finished. That's fantastic news. I'll come check it out right away.
Yeah, so the ceilings are kind of falling apart, and we haven't finished assembling any of the furniture, but I think it's ready for you guys to move in.
There's debris all over the hallways.
A minor inconvenience.
It's 1995.
Yeah.
This building has been under construction for 11 years.
Yeah. We'll have it ready for you by 8.
Okay. A Harrisite overcomes. Leave our city greater than we found it. Leave a city greater than we found it. Leave a city greater. Get back to work! New school, new me.
Hey, beautiful, where are you walking to? I'll be like that.
Has anyone ever told you you were such a beautiful? Be like what?
So she speaks.
May I ask what you all so desperately need from me?
No, you may not, little girl. But you got holding in your arms 101 ways to fold the laundry.
Actually, it's a biology textbook, you know, so I can figure out how you became such a disgusting pig.
You know girls don't get a real education here, love.
Actually, love, I go to Townsend Harris High School, so I get a great education no matter my gender. Now, I have to head back to class, but have fun standing around, I guess.
Yeah, well, you're still just a little girl.
Actually, I'm worse. I'm a Harrisite. Oh, Jesus! Why is it so hot in the cafeteria?
I know. Why do they always do it in the cafeteria? There's so many clubs. I think I'm going deaf in one ear.
Well, there's so many
It's not actually deaf.
All right, but seriously, there are so many clubs in Townsend Harris, I have no idea how I'm gonna pick.
I don't know. I didn't really like any of them. I guess I'll go clubless this year.
The horror! How could you say that?
I don't know.
But clubs are the best part of Townsend Harris. There's something for everyone.
You know, we've been doing some pretty crazy stuff around here. I'm really gonna miss this place. Hey, do you remember that time we slid down the hallway in our socks?
Or that time that we screamed and danced Welcome to the Black Parade after staying so late that Miss York had to escort us out of the building again?
Or that time that we got Miss B's rat to go into that hamster ball and we made it run down the hallway?
And how we always come to school with no food whatsoever, but somehow we always leave feeling full, and we never even go to the cafeteria.
And you can't forget about Mr. O's tea.
The beverage that started this whole play.
You know, I'm really glad that the teachers never got tired of us claiming their offices as our own. And speaking of the teachers and staff, none of this would have been possible without them.
Yeah, without them, the school wouldn't be nearly as accepting and loving. And for that,
And so much more, we thank you. Thank you for all of the good morning cheers.
for never judging us, no matter how weird our quirks may be.
For never getting mad at us when we made mistakes, which is pretty often.
For always encouraging us to follow our dreams, no matter how big or small they may be.
For helping us relearn how to breathe.
For understanding that sometimes we just can't have good days.
For not only watching us grow up, but holding our hand along the way.
For no matter how busy you may be, you're always a shoulder we can cry on, or an ear to listen.
And for helping us realize that we are worth it.
And for helping us know that we matter and we actually have a purpose in this world.
And for always encouraging us to do our best every single day.
And for loving us when we hated ourselves the most.
And for being the family we thought that we didn't deserve.
We love you.
We truly do. And we'll never forget our first family. Thank you for making Townsend our home.
Can I just have one more applause for Adalia, Delilah, and Mr. Kevin Schwab? I really am shorter than everyone else. Tanya Odom is a global consultant, writer, coach, and diversity, equality, and inclusion and civil rights thought leader. She has worked globally for over 20 years in 30 countries as a consultant, coach, storyteller, and facilitator, focusing on areas including diversity and inclusion, inclusive leadership, race and racism, challenging conversations, mindfulness, coaching, innovation and creativity, educational equality, youth empowerment, and mentoring. Tanya's unique portfolio has allowed her to work in the education, private sector, corporate, not-for-profit, law enforcement, and in the university and college arenas. She is the co-author of Evaluating in the Field of Education for Democracy, Human Rights and Tolerance. Tanya is a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, where she has written and posts about diversity, leadership, and self-compassion, and mindfulness. She also writes for CNN.com. Tanya's work and commentary has also appeared in several publications, including Diversity, Women's Magazine, Bloomberg News, and The Village Voice. She has been named by Diversity Best Practices as a diversity thought leader to follow on Twitter. Tanya has been trained as a coach by the Center of Creative Leadership, and she is certified in the Hay Group's Emotional and Social Competency Inventory. She has also been trained in the Difficult Conversations methodology at the Program on Negotiation at Harvard Law School. As a mindfulness practitioner, Tanya weaves in mindfulness research and practice in her work with individuals and groups and connects it to leadership, teams, intentional inclusion, and mitigating of unconscious bias. Over the past 3 years, Tanya has spent a great deal of time in global facilitating sessions, moderating panels focusing on challenging conversations, where she has been creating spaces for honest and courageous dialogues and sharing. Entrepreneur Magazine has featured Tanya as one of the 3 most women entrepreneurs who unleash their energy for the greater good. A quote by Tanya that resonated with me. "My disruption is about disrupting systems and historical legacies that have valued, seen, heard, empowered some people more than others. We know that this work is not always easy, but we continue it because we know it's important. My work is not in one industry or one country. Like a scientist or a puzzle whiz, I weave together what I have learned from different projects, organizations, and places. I am proud to call Tanya my friend, a Harrisite, and my Wonder Woman, Miss Tanya Odom."
Don't be a drag, just be a queen.
Oh my goodness. Ms. York asked me in a text what song I wanted to walk on stage to. And I said, I'll just keep it quiet. She surprised me. Thank you, Ms. York. I also want to thank Ms. York for personally being the person to invite me to today. So good morning, everyone. You're like, okay, here's another person that's going to make me say good morning again. So Principal Condon, Craig Slutskin, administration staff, fellow alumni, friends, and students of the Townsend Harris High School community, my people, thank you for inviting me to be with you today. As you heard, my name is Tanya Odom. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm a proud member of the class of 1988, which is the first graduating class of the reopened school. It's really exciting, actually, to sit here and watch the skits and watch the history come alive. So I want to spend my short time with you doing a bit of time traveling. Is that okay? So I want to zoom back and forth from about 1983 to 2019 and then sit down. In 1983, my mother saw a very small ad in Newsday talking about a new high school that would be opening in Queens. We had very few details, but she thought it sounded good, and not just good, but good for me. I applied and I was accepted. Side note here, it's one of the many, many, many times in my life that my mother has been right. Townsend Harris High School was the right high school for me. Throughout my time at Townsend Harris, I did not have to worry about school violence or bullying or gangs or discrimination or other things that prevent students from being fully engaged like some of the schools that I work with around the United States. I spent my high school days in a very unique and sometimes odd, very small place, as Craig mentioned, down the street on Parsons Boulevard, where we talked about chaos and order, where we didn't have computers at first, where we had spirit days and collaterals, and as you might know, not much dating, because we were way too small and we knew each other way too well. We had a lot of homework. We had gym that some felt was torturous, and it was a place where a small group of students, teachers, administrators, staff, and our families created the foundation for what is now one of the best schools in the United States. So moving forward, I'm going to share some reflections, and I want to actually pose some questions to you. So you heard that I'm a consultant and coach, and that's a lot of the work that I do. So here's the time traveling part, and I'm going to use some slides to sort of help me, because here's a secret. It keeps you engaged as well. So the first slide. So you already heard your principal give this quote, but this was actually a tweet that I saw from CUNY, which was on October 3rd, 2019. And you see the quote from Townsend Harris there. I'll read part of it again because you've already heard it, but let the children of the rich and poor take their seats and know of no distinction. I see this on the school website. I've heard it here today, and it resonated with me so deeply, and I knew that I would mention it with you. So when people ask me what I do, this is what I do. I state what's important. This quote talks about a commitment to diversity and inclusion, but it also talks about creation of a community where this is valued. You see, I've learned in 25 years of doing this work that even when there is diversity, it doesn't mean it's valued. It's still true today that this is a diverse community and a unique community, even if it annoys you at times. I was fortunate, and I believe you are too, to be in a school with such diversity. We're different in so many ways, both visible and invisible. And here's the honest part about the work, is that it's not always easy understanding each other. It can be uncomfortable and challenge us. This is in part at the core of the work that I've done. So within our diversity, there are stories and histories in this country and many others where people were and are treated unfairly because of who they are, and that matters. This year, 2019, is the 400th anniversary of when enslaved people were brought to the United States from Africa. So some of you may have seen the 1619 Project from the New York Times. So recently I spoke at a private school, and there was very little diversity in the school. They were eager to learn, and we had a great conversation, and they wanted to dig deep into the conversation about race and socioeconomic diversity. I felt good after meeting with the school, and when I went outside, I was there looking for my Uber car. I think I'm probably one of the big fans of Uber, and probably spend way too much money. But anyway, so I went outside, and I looked for my car, and there were headlights in the distance. And I said to the people, okay, I'm gonna leave now because that looks like my car is here. But actually the head of school turned to me and he said, no, that's not your car. Those are police cars. And I've asked the police cars to be here in case anything happened. Because not everyone wants to be having the conversations about diversity and inclusion. So everything ended well, and I'm here, I'm alive and talking to you, but yet it was a reminder about the world in which we live. The diversity around you that you all might take for granted is a gift to be explored and learned from. The work is often about learning and unlearning things about people, history, and lives that we might be perceiving as different than we are. So my first question to all of you is, how are you valuing the diversity around you? How are you learning about differences, privilege, power, historical legacies, and intentional inclusion? So traveling back in time, this is the traveling part, I applied to Vassar College in my senior year. I knew that I was good at speaking, and I believed that the interview, since I was not the valedictorian or salutatorian, I believed that an interview could boost my chances in that very stressful college application process. Vassar was my first choice school. But unfortunately, my interview was horrible. A nightmare, actually, and I remember vividly how arrogant I perceived my interviewer to be as he had his feet up on the desk when he spoke to me. I didn't feel he was interested in me, in Townsend Harris, in what I could bring to the table, or why I even wanted Vassar. So I left feeling deflated. And then after some time, I decided to write a letter to the Dean of Admissions. Townsend Harris High School had definitely helped me fine-tune my writing and my voice, and I was really upset by the experience. So slide 2, speak your mind even if your voice shakes. I wrote the letter to the Dean of Admissions at Vassar and told him that I did not believe that my interview provided an opportunity to convey why I wanted Vassar or who I was. I even offered to do another interview. I never heard back from him. I really didn't even know if my letter had impacted their decision to admit me. Fast forward, I was admitted, I went to campus, and pretty early on, the dean came up to me and said he knew who I was, and he thanked me for my letter. I'm now on the board of trustees of Vassar College. I'm one of the youngest trustees, and I guess my letter was not received too negatively, #noted. People have commented over the years that this was bold. And for me, it was not about being bold, it was about the right thing to do. In my work in the area of diversity and inclusion and civil rights, that's what I focus on. I work to make sure that everyone can have a voice and feel like they belong, and feel safe and productive in their church, mosque, synagogue, school, museum, workplace, campus. We often see things through our own life experiences and lenses. So my job is to try to help people see what other people see or feel what other people feel. So that might mean listening to people through stories or focus groups. And then it's my job to bring everything back to a principal, to a college president, to a CEO or a senior leader. And I'm actually usually suggesting, how do we make this better? How do we make this a more inclusive place? Sometimes it's on a stage in front of hundreds of people. And sometimes it's talking about bias or stereotypes or the ways in which I felt included in exclusion. And yes, after all these years, my voice still sometimes shakes. I'm not the only alum that does work like this. You've heard from Craig Slutskin and co-president Selena Lee. Their job is to actually continue the traditions and to make sure you all know of all of the people who've gone before us. Jennifer Croman, class of '88, recently received a huge award. It's the Public Interest Law Leadership Award, which is presented to an attorney that demonstrates a commitment to Legal Aid's mission that no person should be denied rights to equal justice. While many of us watched on television the travel ban and people stuck in airports around the United States, Jennifer and her colleagues were working with detained people for days on the ground, making sure they got the help they needed. I would imagine that Neely Rosick, class of 2004, who's a representative in Queens, who some of you might know, has also had moments of her voice shaking as she pushes to make change at the local and state levels. She recently introduced a law in New York, listen how powerful this is, allowing incarcerated persons entering solitary confinement to make phone calls. She also helped pass legislation to create and implement hate crimes training for law officers. And just recently, she was behind the installation of breast pumping stations for new moms that were placed in Penn Station, in addition to many other things. I could go on and on and on. There are so many alums that are using their voice like I do and using their positions and platforms. So my question here for you is, what are some of the things that you want to speak up about, even if your voice shakes? And who are the people that we need your voice to support them? So my last reflection on this time-traveling journey actually was just a couple of years ago after my father passed away. He was living in Louisiana, and there was a memorial service in Louisiana and a memorial service in New York. And several members of my family were on a flight traveling back home, maybe to LaGuardia, on a flight, but we weren't seated together on the plane. And at one point, my brother-in-law came up to me and he showed me one of the beverages for sale. And he said, "Tanya, do you want this beverage? We'll buy it for you." And I said, "No, Chad, that's okay. I'm doing okay." A little while later, the flight attendant came up to me and she handed me the beverage. She said that my family had insisted that she give it to me. It was very kind of them and kind of her, and I remember, because of the emotions of just coming from the memorial service and this kindness, I got a bit teary on the plane. And I told the flight attendant as she looked at me that it had been a long week. I couldn't say much, but I made sure to thank her. It was a really small plane. It was a regional jet. So for those of you who fly, that means there's one flight attendant for the whole plane. And she was the only one. So she put the beverage cart away, and 2 minutes later, she appeared with this note written on a napkin. And the note said, "I'm not sure what's going on to make your week so tough, but I just wanted you to know you're so strong to have made it this far. We're proud of you, Ashley." So what do you think I did? Cried. How many of you are crying? This happens exactly, right? Did Ashley need to do this? No. I have to tell you, by the way, I've tried to get Ashley a promotion. You have no idea how many times I've emailed the CEO of Delta. But anyway, back to my speech. So yes, I cried, but I was also so touched by Ashley's kindness. So my last question here, as I come to the end, is, are there ways that you can be more kind? I sometimes call moments, these small moments, Ashley moments. Are there ways the Townsend Harris community can be more kind? Are there ways that we can see each other and have more compassion, knowing that we might not always know what someone's carrying or dealing with? I learned a lot at Townsend Harris. I grew up a lot, and I can't remember all my grades. I can't remember all my books that I read. I don't remember what I got on most Regent exams. However, what I do remember is my principal. I remember my assistant principals. I remember the administration and staff and how I was nurtured in this unique and quirky environment. I remember my classmates, many of whom are still part of my important inner circle today. I also remember being involved with SAD and PUFL and student government and more. My involvement outside of the classroom taught me different skills and strengthened me in different ways and paralleled the rigor that I found in the classroom. So while I admit not having the Ephebic Oath on my mind every day, I see how much it is a part of who I am. So on this Founders Day, as I head to sit down, I promised you, I've shared some questions that I want you to think about. I hope you remember at least one of them. I'm grateful and fortunate to be able to do the work I do around the world. I'm grateful to see new members of the Townsend Harris community in the class of 2023. I'm grateful to be asked to be with you. And finally, I'm really grateful that you all are soon going to be out in the world. And I'm sure making it a better place than you found it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. As a thought leader, you have really provoked us and challenged us on those questions. What matters and what value do we find in diversity? When to speak up, even when our voice is a little shaky? And how to make this place a little bit kinder just by the actions that we do. So thank you. Next up is one of my favorite traditions of Townsend Harris Founders Day, the Senior Skit. This year, a few students will be giving a tour to a prospective teacher, Miss T, and give a little insight into the characters that inhabit our wonderful school. See if you can recognize some of the teachers and staff members in this year's Senior Skit.
Okay, but why is the playground so big? I heard it's the size of the classroom. Ours is literally a closet compared to theirs. There are like 2 boys in this school. They don't need all that space. Boys. You know what? I'm gonna give Mr. Condon a piece of my mind because this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like hey, Mr. Condon, I definitely wasn't talking about you, Mr. Hi, Mr. Condon.
Hello, Grace. I was just talking to our potentially new teacher, Miss T.
Hello.
As a matter of fact, would you girls mind taking her on an original, never been done before tour of school?
One second. I don't want to do it. But we have to. You can't say no to Mr. Condon. But I'm already procrastinating the Senior Skit. So.
Maybe if we do this, I'll take off my 50 demerits.
So, what are your names again? Carice. I'm Kiara. Anish. Great. So, where are we starting?
Let's meet Townsend science teachers.
This is our new teacher, Miss T.
Another one?
So basically anyone who does anything.
Hey guys, check out this new picture my girlfriend posted. Every time I see her, she fills my heart with song and lets me sing.
Oh my god! Oh, hi, Mr. Hageman. Oh, why are you all dressed up today, Mr. Hageman?
Today I'm getting observed.
Told you.
I have a
Dottie. I'm coming. Steal!
Are they gonna be okay? Definitely. Maybe. I'm sure the robotics cult is running there right now. What is our freshman doing here? Don't they have a meeting in the auditorium? They do. Let's go tell her. Excuse me. Yes? Don't you have a meeting in the auditorium? I'm a senior. Yeah, we literally have humanities together. Oh, hey girl! That's happened to me twice today. Anyways, bye. I've never seen it before. So I said, y'all meet. I'm meeting you. Anyway, I think they were all the same.
Hey, Mr. Connor.
Hey, Miss Lincoln. Oh, it's someone. Amanda? It's a Mish.
Why is everyone with girls?
I knew that. Why does no one know each other's names at this school? Hi. Oh, I'm not a student. Wait, really? Oh, stop it. Who is this wonderful woman? Would you like to see this picture of my kids and me in Disney World? They are so cute. This is great. I can't believe I get to see hundreds of pictures of other people's kids. Has it ever occurred to you that, not everyone cares about your kids? These math teachers have a lot of problems.
Oh, here come Miss Reyes and Mr. Sforza. The girl.
Don't like them. Oh, come closer. I don't bite.
I didn't do it.
Actually, you did. Left the cart in the middle of the hallway. Why do you leave stuff flying around everywhere?
I'm always in trouble.
Look at them.
Let's go. Talk about this.
Man, come on, nobody else could do that. All right, let's go. I'll eat the M&Ms my husband gave me, even though I specifically asked for flowers.
That's for them.
Now, what's that?
Oh, that's only the best singer in Townsend, Mr. Amana.
Seems to me as if I have lost my hall pass.
Okay, let's look for it. Everyone, spread out.
Is it even that
Oh,
Shut up.
Why, yes, of course it's important. The hall pass is as sacred as the chameleon moon, transparent in the tranquil night sky.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe it's on the full force boys bathroom.
No.
Someone should look into that though.
Hey, do you hear that? I think that's the music. That reminds me, I have to rearrange islands tonight. Karate contest.
Hey, Mr. Snowden.
Not this again. Lord.
You guys need some tissues? No, Mr. Stonehill. Why? I'll find somebody else that appreciates me.
I actually need
They teach at Indiana University. Because I love music. Did you know I'm Irish? Yes, I am Irish.
I think we've established that he's Irish.
He is? Wow.
I think you can tell that he's a very passionate man.
Okay, guys, let's get going, please.
Where are you guys going?
Running today. But it's like 23 degrees outside.
Yeah, but...
What are you guys up to?
After a 4.5-mile run, they'll thank me.
Mr. B! This unlimited price is amazing.
Hey, Mr. Bean, we're not ready today, right?
Let me tap into my compatible. I'm gone. Still good.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
Oh, I knew I should have worn my slides. I think I look fabulous.
Don't change. Don't think I won't find you.
You can't say that. Yeah, you have to tell us in secret first, and then we'll talk to the students back in secretly. Those are how the rules work. And then we can ask them questions like, is everything okay at home? And is there a reason you dress this way? I love your job.
I swear I exert so much power.
Amish, put that phone away.
Come on.
Tend to Mary.
Well, she can't do that.
I already got 50.
Thank God she's gone.
Please, that is more than I can hardly.
Therese, come on, you're distracting everybody.
It's not like I can put them back on. Hold up, baby.
I think my tea made gossip, Mr. Castillo.
Bonjour, Miss O'Hara.
What are you doing?
Notching your head taps a -10, Chica.
What a beauty. I can tell we're going to be cousins. No, sisters. I'm so sorry. I forgot to introduce Miss T over here.
Ask me a question, any question.
What's your favorite color?
See, I love swimming.
You have such beautiful hair. Where did you get this hair? It's like my mother's hair. You know Miss T might actually be a new teacher this year?
Ah, that's good tea. This, not this.
Oh, wait. Did you hear about the new penthouse swimming pool? Oh, see? Dime, I love gossip. Not in front of Los Niños.
Wait, have you placed for me to swim? Hold this.
Well, that was an interesting time.
It was way more than interesting. Yeah, so what was your first impression of the school?
You mean my first impression from when I came here like 7 years ago?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Wait, no, what?
Yeah, I was a student here. I had some of the teachers you introduced me to.
So you're telling me I walked up 6 flights of stairs for nothing?
You're kidding, right?
It wasn't for nothing. I mean, I just wanted to see what would happen, and I did help you write the senior skit.
At least now that the senior skit's over, I can do my college apps. I'm going to Harvard!
You will have come across difficulties, trials, tribulations, but also many amazing things. And it is those who are strong and resilient that achieve greatness. In the film Moana, Moana was faced with a dire situation where her island was dying. They needed a new home, and they needed to rise above, take a chance, and look for a new place to live. Let this be an inspiration to us all that though you are venturing into the unknown, you have guiding stars above you, and even though you don't know exactly where you're going, you know the way. Hold on, we know you're excited. Here to perform We Know the Way from the movie Moana is the musical dream team, Mr. Chris Lee, Mr. David Stern, and Mr. Keith.
Check 1, 2. All right, we're gonna need a little help here. Can we get this section right here?
Hello.
Starting on our journey, let's become a nearer from it. Don't be up for such a hurry. Every single thing that you can want to get learned, and many of a stone that's left to be unturned. Time is always gonna be the bright sky, and all they're gonna be the golden guiding light. And when you take that leap and you give yourself a chance, then it's step by step you beginning to advance. The years that came before us showed us all the way to go, but only to show that we can get to the unknown. So come and have a sight. Let me hear you say, away, 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 away.
members of the Townsend Harris community. So, will the new members of our Townsend Harris community, including students and faculty, please rise to recite the Phoebic Oath. Please repeat after me. I shall never bring disgrace to my city, nor shall I ever desert my comrades in the ranks, but I, both alone and with my many comrades, shall fight for the ideals and sacred things of the city. I shall willingly pay heed to whoever renders judgment with wisdom, and shall obey both the laws already established and whatever laws the people in their wisdom shall establish. I alone and with my many comrades shall resist anyone who destroys the laws or disobeys them. I shall not leave my city any less, but rather greater than I found it. Congratulations and welcome to Townsend Harris.
As another Founders Day slowly comes to a close and another class of Harrisites are brought into our school community, we prepare to send you off with the Townsend Harris alma mater. Irvin Drake, one of America's songwriting treasures, graced the halls of Townsend Harris during his high school years, and he used his talents to leave Townsend Harris a gift that will ring in our halls for years to come. On the back of your programs, you will find the words so we can call all to join the Townsend Harris Chamber Music Choir, accompanied by the Wind Ensemble, as they sing our alma mater, Townsend Harris High. Please turn to the back of your programs and join us. Please stand.
please be seated. So we have just a couple more things to do before we conclude. So the first thing is we're going to take attendance. All right. Is the class of 2023 here? Is the class of 2022 here? Is the class of 2021 here? Is the class of 2020 here?
Please stand up. If the class of 2020 is present, can I get a yo? Hey, let me get one last vibe check for all the graduating seniors. Let me hear it.
One more song on the back of your program today. And this is a newly arranged fight song for Townsend Harris. With a melody from acclaimed Townsend Harris alum Richard Rogers and the words from the Townsend Harris class of 2020, the Townsend Harris Wind Ensemble will premiere the Townsend Harris High School fight song, Victory. Now, as you make your way to the exit, because you're going to make your way to the exit, please join in singing this new piece of Townsend Harris history, and let's welcome student conductor Carolina Narvaez, class of 2020, to the podium. We wish everyone a successful academic year, and to the class of 2023, welcome to the family. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next year.